Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live stream. We're delighted you're able to join us today. We are thrilled to be hosting the absolutely spectacular Michael McManus from Ready, Set, Go about Let's Discuss Hunting. Not that kind of hunting, the actual real kind of hunting. So we're delighted to have Michael here today. Again, if you guys have any questions about this really super exciting topic, please feel free to write those inside the comments. We definitely want you guys to be participating. And if any of you have actually been involved in the actual sport of hunting, feel free to let us know. We want to hear about your stories.
Well, and I
But
also want to
go
point
ahead.
out, because you say not that hunting, the real hunting, not real hunting actually, but the sport of hunting, which is not real hunting, which is actually about killing animals, which is
Yes.
slightly different.
Yes, it's a very good distinction. Thank you.
There's a real hunting.
Yes, so this is like a layer beyond that. So the very first question I had for you, sir, is how did you first get involved in this? Because everyone knows you from nose work. How did you actually get involved in the sport of hunting?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because I think a lot of people assume things about me. Like my whole life, people have assumed I was a Boy Scout growing up, and I was not. Actually, I grew up in inner city LA. I didn't have a strong connection with nature other than just like generally liking animals. I liked bird watching. I liked catching lizards and things like that as a child, but I didn't have a strong connection with nature. Um, and it was the first exposure I had to hunting was with my Siberian Husky Lumi, and I was a vegetarian at the time, which a lot of people might not know that about me. And Lumi had a very strong predatory drive. She killed a lot of animals. And just the way my brain works, I go, well, this is her natural instinct. She's meant to be a hunter, so therefore I will start hunting for her. Like maybe I need to give her an outlet to use her hunting instinct. So we actually went rabbit hunting, like real legitimate, not no training, like just because she was my dog and she was trained that way and we had that relationship. She would bring me back rabbits and she would chase them when I said, and she would stop chasing them when I said. So it kind of worked out. Um, I wish I knew what I knew now. We could have actually done some fun things. But so that was my first exposure to it, and I would chat with some people and this and that. And then when I moved to Missouri, I went on a road trip actually with Sue Sternberg, and we went and looked at a litter of puppies in Texas. And I knew, like, I'd already experimented with sheep herding dogs. I'd experimented a lot with nose work, as you guys well know. I'd experimented a little bit with protection dogs. And so I'd been doing all these things, and I knew the next thing I kind of wanted to do was pointing dogs. And so we saw this litter of short hairs, and I was like, look, I'll foster this dog, and if he points, maybe I'll keep him. And is a phenomenal pointing dog, an amazing pointing dog. And so I started getting involved in that sport, learning the training, learning the different things that were involved in that, and started teaching a retrieve, which I had a little retrieve with Lumi, but it's not like a real retrieve like for hunting training. So I taught a real retrieve. And in the off season, when you can't really do much pointing, I was like, well, maybe I'll like really go farther with the retrieve and start doing actual retriever training, because if you know about hunt sport, there's a lot of different hunt sports. There's not just one. And so when we're talking about gun dogs or bird dogs, we've got three different kinds. And the reason I point out gun dogs is because there's other types of hunting. There's sight hounds, there's coursing, and different than lure coursing, like actually running coursing dogs on rabbits, on coyotes, on things like that, which I haven't even done. Like my first sheep herding instructor did it a little bit, but I didn't really get to go. That's something I want to do eventually. Then there's scent hounds, there's your beagles, your basset hounds, and they all have different sports with different rules for the different breeds. Well, in gun dogs, you've got three types essentially. You've got pointing hunt tests or upland hunt tests. You've got retriever hunt tests, and then you've got flushing hunt tests, which is upland for retrievers who don't point. And so you got those three different kinds. And so I started doing retrieving hunt tests, and catfish, being a short hair, is actually allowed to run in both pointing and retrieving hunt tests, which isn't true for all pointers. And so I started doing that. And he's actually, it's been a challenging road because they're not Labrador retrievers, but he's quite good. And he's become, like many hunting trainers have told me, he's one of the best short hairs they've ever seen doing retrieve work. And that's been fun for me. And so we're trying to finish up his last master leg. But so that's kind of how I got started in hunt training. And now it's in my opinion, it's my favorite dog sport. I think a lot of times with certain dog sport people, you'll get into a discussion about like what's the best dog sport or what's the most challenging dog sport, what's the most difficult dog sport. And protection people always think, oh, it's IGP, oh, it's ring sport, it's this and that. And now that I'm doing protection sport with my Malinois, like seriously, I'm competing, we're going for IGP1 in October. I can definitively tell you retriever training is, in my opinion, the most challenging. IGP is very challenging in its own right, but I would say between the two, I think hunting training is more technical, more reliant on certain things. And anyways, I think hunting is a very, very exciting dog sport.
We can tell you're talking a mile a minute, which is awesome.
I know.
And you can just really tell you're excited, like, oh my God, I gotta get it all out. So just for people who maybe like, he said a bunch of words, I have no idea what they mean. So what does point, what does flushing, and what does retrieve mean within the context of hunt sport?
Yes. Okay. So, and I actually have some videos where I can show a little bit of what I'm talking about here.
Okay.
And I think I'll start with the most simple, okay? Flushing. And flushing and pointing are similar. And the cool thing about flushing and pointing is it's essentially just nose work. Just instead of putting hides out, you're literally putting birds out. And so, like, the judges are just like COs. They're deciding where to put birds in the field based on wind currents, based on other things, to set up scent challenges for the dogs. And I'll just show you very quick a short video of flushing. What that means is the dog is going to go look for a bird in a field, and then they will flush it. So they will chase it, pounce on it, try to make it fly in the air. Now, the dog isn't trying to make it fly in the air. The dog's trying to catch it. But because of the nature, the dogs are just a little slower than birds. In general, the bird gets up before the dog catches the bird. Sometimes the dog catches the bird. But in general, the bird gets up in the air and then you shoot it. The dog can't get the bird without the human's help, and the human can't get the bird without the dog's help, which means it's truly cooperative between you and the dog.
Okay.
So let me share that video. Okay. And here we are, flushing. This is a minute 19 video. So this is my buddy. He's helping me out by gunning for me. And you can see she's covered in birds. She's having a blast. And so I'm going to pause it there. So I just told him, because everyone talks about it. In nose work, we talk about, okay, noticing when the dog has caught odor and they're bracketing and this and that. It's the exact same in hunting. They use the word birdie. The dog is becoming birdie. That's what we mean by when the dog has started sourcing. When the dog has caught the odor of a bird and they're working it. So she just got birdie. And so we're getting prepared for a bird to come up into the air.
Okay.
There's the bird running across the ground. And so she flushed it. When it flushed, I told her to sit.
So that's a level of self-control that you have to have as part of your training.
Yes, and you know, there's different ways to teach it and whatever. Minnow is very kind of naturally cooperative in certain ways, so she just kind of naturally came with that level of control. And then what we're showing now, and what you heard, that loud noise was me blowing a whistle. That meant sit.
Okay.
And so we're talking about birds and whether birds are smart or dumb. And so now after he shot it, she has to go retrieve it. So she's retrieving it now and she's trying to pick it up. It's still squirming a little bit because, you know, they squirm a little. And so she retrieved it. So that's essentially what a brief clip of what flushing training looks like.
Okay, perfect. And then do you have anything for pointing?
Yes. I stopped sharing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let me pull up my pointing video. And then I didn't know what all I was going to show. So I have videos of the activities like I'm showing now. And then I also have videos of the training. So we can talk a little bit about that too. But
perfect.
Okay, here is our pointing. Okay, I I can do it this way. Okay, so this is my dog Catfish. We're at another field. I don't think I have a gunner this time. I think we're just doing some simple pointing drills. And this is another just quick one. Just the same as with flushing. That was the point. Okay, so that's the first 4 seconds of the video. Now, obviously, I cropped it. But just like with flushing, we're observing the dog getting birdie, and then the point, more like nose work. The dog catches the bird, they source the bird, and then they indicate. The point is like an indication. The only difference is we're not teaching that indication. That's something that comes kind of pre-built into the dog.
And can only certain dogs point?
That's an interesting question. Because the answer is all predators point. All predators, even like barracudas in the water, they point before they strike something. Cats point or stalk things before they strike it. Snakes point. All dogs point momentarily before they pounce on something. What pointers have differently, and what we would call a point in a pointer that we don't get in a Labrador Retriever, is that momentary freeze before the pounce. We've genetically enhanced that to where they will just stand like that for minutes, hours maybe, and they will just freeze in that position and never move to the next step. Now, some dogs do move to the next step, and there's training for that, but yes, so it's pointers that do that, and some other breeds might do it more than others. And you'll even hear people talk about pointing labs that have this point enhanced either genetically or through certain types of training.
So for people who've developed like a nose freeze so far, like, oh, my dog's a pointer.
Yeah, so I'll just show a little bit more of this. And so there's another dog pointing there. Oh, I showed 2 videos of it pointing. So yeah, that nose freeze may or may not be a point, depending on why the dog's doing it and when. I taught Minnow a sit and stare alert that was kind of a point because of the way I trained it. But if you just taught a nose target with duration, that's not what a point is. A point is when you like throw treats at a hide and the dog starts like freezing up at the a hide because they are anticipating a treat being thrown. That's the point. It is in there in some nose work dogs, and you'll see it when you see it in real life. There's some dogs who like lock up in a certain way versus dogs who are just like performing a behavior.
Right. So I see this a lot in my tiny terrier. Whenever he's hunting for a toy, before he finds it, he will do a very momentary freeze and then do the fox pounce on it.
Yes, exactly. And okay, so some people will have a problem with me calling that a point because they're like, no, what a point is specifically what pointers have been bred to do. And that, that momentary freeze that other breeds do, it's a stalk, it's something else, but it's not a point because a point is only what we call it when a pointer has been bred to do it. Okay, we can get into debates about that, but I would say it's all on a continuum, right? Of the stalk portion of the predatory sequence, and we have everything from the momentary freeze before the pounce, all the way up to pointing, all the way through the border collie stalk. These are all amplifications of that part of the sequence.
Perfect. So we have a couple of questions for you inside the chat. Do you happen to know what is the natural hunting context for dachshunds?
Yeah, well, as some of you may or may not know, dachshund, hund means dog, and dachs means badger. So theoretically, dachshunds were badger hunting dogs, which is a pretty intense thing. I think a lot of the dachshund trials that you'll go to, they're going for rabbits, but they're like a terrier. Terrier means going to ground, underground in holes and things like that. Dachshunds are in that vein of things, alongside other breeds of dogs who are looking for rabbits, beagles, and basset hounds and things like that. But dachshunds, with their body shape, are designed to go into the holes, whereas some other breeds don't fit into the dens and the holes and things like that.
Perfect. And they had a follow-up. I think this could enhance the nose work experience, and maybe it could enhance motivation as far as potentially training for hunt. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it could go a lot of different ways, and you don't know until you try it with your dog. I'll give you two different ways it could go, and then I'll tell you my perspective on it. One way it could go is that it like connects the dog into something deep inside of them, and they are just more motivated, right? Another way it could go is that they go, "Oh, screw nose work. This is way better. I don't want anything to do with nose work anymore."
Right.
And I've seen it go both ways with dogs. Um, so my personal perspective is that even though a lot of us get a dog to do nose work, that ultimately we should do what brings to our dogs the most meaningful existence, that whatever that means for that dog. And so if the dog would do hunting and that would ruin them for everything else in their life because they go, this is my true calling and that's the only thing I want to do now, I think we shouldn't deny that to them because it would ruin our nose work. My experience is if you build a relationship with a dog, the dog will do what you ask them.
Right.
And even if you give them hunting, if you have a relationship with a dog and you say, let's do nose work now, the dog will be like, well, it's not as fun as hunting, but yeah, sure. You say, let's do nose work, let's do it.
Perfect. And then we have, cool, I'm on the list for a Field Springer Spaniel pup in 2027, so I'll definitely do some hunt training. Very
That's
exciting
fun.
stuff.
Yeah. And flushing, which is what most spaniels do, is like pretty like I don't want to say easy in like a way that makes it feel diminished. No, but it's like straightforward. It comes really naturally. There's not a lot of extra training, and the extra training you have to do is like good for their life in general. Like a really solid sit stay. It's just good for a dog in their regular life.
Right. Exactly. So I had a follow-up for you on this is since you've been involved formally within the sport of hunting, has surprised you, if anything?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things, and I guess surprise is a particular word, so we can discuss whether it was surprise or not. But one thing is like that all dog training is essentially the same. That like it's if in some ways I felt just at home there as I did in sheep herding, and that's not surprising. It shouldn't be surprising, but in a way it was surprising that it's like yeah, this is still just dog training. We're taking a dog with these instincts, we're putting them in an environment, they do these things, you respond a certain way. It's really cool. And then the opposite of that was the other thing surprising, which is like how different all of these worlds are from each other and how much every world can gain from all the others. Going into the pointing world and knowing very little about pointing training, I could see training procedures and I was like, this isn't quite right. And again, I don't know anything about pointing training at this point, but I'm pulling in things I've learned from protection training. I'm pulling in things I've learned from herding training. And I had a bunch of people start asking me, well, how did you do that? Wait, I want to do that. I want to do that. And like just little techniques that come from these other dog sports that people were like, this is brilliant. Why did we never think of that before? It's like, because you guys aren't doing multiple dog sports. And I'm taking these hunting techniques and going back to IGP, going back to sheep herding, going back to nose work and building something different with it as well.
Perfect. And so that's something for people to consider is that, so let me ask you this. So people may be like, oh, this sounds so exciting, but I don't know, am I even allowed to play in this? Or is this kind of, okay, well, let's see what kind of dog you have. Yep, nope, you're not allowed.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is accessibility of the sport to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So depending on what venues, because there are just like any dog sport, there's different venues. I will say a couple things. In terms of competing, there are certain rules, just like there are in nose work. But in terms of benefiting from the activity, any dog can benefit from the activity. Just like in other dog sports, finding the right club with the right people who are welcoming, who aren't going to pressure you to do things you're not comfortable with, who are thoughtful about training the dog, that's of paramount importance. With retriever pointing and flushing hunt tests, you can look it up on the AKC website. There is a list of breeds who are allowed to participate in the trials, in the hunt tests. And other breeds are not allowed. I think there's a chance these things might change because the AKC likes money, and so like why not let more people play? But Some of the other venues are less strict about that than others, so just be aware of that. In AKC hunt tests, you can run with a PALD dog, so a purebred alternate listing. If you have that with your dog, and your dog is neutered or spayed, you can do that. You cannot do field trials with that. Field trials and hunt tests are different things, and we can talk about that, or you can look it up. But there is some limited availability. But again, the activity is beneficial for, I think, almost any dog, because all dogs are hunters, no matter their breed. They all are hunters, and they can benefit from some portion of this training.
Perfect. So we have a couple more questions for you. I also have mini dachshunds. I'm in Canada. My 14-year-old has done everything from earth dog, barn hunt, scent detection, and NASDA. He's very clearly told me he's done with earth dog and barn hunt, so we have shifted to scent and NASDA until he tells me different. Yes, listen to your puppy.
Absolutely.
Especially when he's 14 years old. He has the right to say whatever he wants.
Yes.
So the other thing I had as far as a question for you is for people who may be interested in the competition side of things, how do you prepare for a hunt test? What are some of the skills that you would want to be building for the dog and yourself and the team?
Yeah. So I want to preface this with the most important thing, and also the most beneficial thing in all hunt tests is the same, which is obedience. It's about the dog responding to life-saving commands as if their life depends on it, because it does. It does for pet dogs, and it does especially for hunting dogs. Having a dog that's out of control chasing birds is at risk in a hunting situation of being shot by a hunter who is overeager or just doesn't know that your dog is jumping up after a bird. They take a shot, your dog is in the way. These kinds of hunting accidents happen all the time, unfortunately, and having a very strong obedience to be able to tell the dog to stop, when to go, when to come back, these things are critical. So that is the fundamental skill of everything. Then into the specifics of pointing, flushing, and retrieving, there are all sorts of specific skills to train. I have 2 videos of retrieve training and 1 video of pointing training. I think I'll just show the retrieve videos of puppy training. These are puppy skills that are fun, that anybody can benefit from, and they highlight 2 basic skills of retriever training, which is what's called lining and casting. Lining is the dog's ability to pick a destination and run a straight line to that destination. That's what lining is. Casting is the dog's ability to stop, listen to direction from the handler, who's going to cast the dog in a particular direction, and to follow that cast to wherever it leads. So I'll show you those 2 videos real quick so you can get a flavor of it. And actually, I've been thinking for a long time of like, what if I turned that into a sport for all dogs? That would be really fun. I don't have time for it, but if that piques anybody's interest, let me know, and maybe I can help and be a consultant. Anyways, because I have lots of ideas, I just don't have time to implement them.
So would the casting be similar to in competition obedience when they're directing over a obstacle, or they're directing them to pick up a certain article in a certain direction? Is that in the same wheelhouse?
Yeah, so the hunting competitions, now I might be wrong about this, but my understanding of, obedience competitions is that those essentially started because this hunting trainer wanted to show off how incredibly under control his dogs were in healing, because healing originally is a hunting thing. In case you don't know that, the reason, actually, maybe I'll just ask this question to the audience because we're getting some participation. Sure. Why does your dog heal on the left side? Does anybody know why your dog is supposed to heal on the left side?
Yes, make sure that right inside the chat.
Yes, right inside the chat. So these competitions were based on hunting. So the directed jumping and retrieving elements are baby versions of real hunting exercises. And the actual hunting exercises are way more interesting and complex, but for whatever reason, they don't do them exactly that way in competition. Looks like nobody is being brave enough to answer my question. Oh,
nope, that's me prompting them to do it. So if you wanted to show the video, we'll see if they get brave after the video.
Absolutely. Okay.
No, we have somebody.
Got the answer. Good job. Because your gun is being carried on your right side. Exactly. Okay. So Perfect. It's all about hunting. Okay. So let me share the video. Okay. So this is a puppy lining drill that I'm going to share first. Okay, so here we got a bowl sitting in the middle of my yard. And this is little baby puppy Minnow. And she's got a little cookie there, and I ask her to sit in heel position. I put kibble in the bowl. I go back to her and I give her her pre-cues for lining, and I send her. Okay, this is really simple. I am adding a little distance while she's eating. She's got to be, I don't know, 9, 10 weeks old at this point. Which, by the way, this level of obedience and control, I have a long line on her, but she's sitting and staying while I walk away from her. This is not unreasonable for everyone to have with their dogs at this age. I think people, instead of doing this and building some reliability on some really important commands, a lot of people are changing that in favor of teaching a lot of different skills to their puppies. I think this is probably better. Okay? So you can see she's enthusiastic, running far back. I'm adding more distance.
She's making sure she maintains her puppy license by getting all the kibbles.
Yes. She, like all labs, is very interested in every piece of food that exists. Yes. So I'm, okay, don't get distracted by the lining. What am I working on here? Sit, stay, recall, right? These are the things I'm working, heel. Those are the things I'm working out. And the lining, the skill that the drill is technically training, is just the reward for the obedience. And it's like, oops, you broke your sit. Let's do it again. You don't get rewarded unless you do the obedience. It's like, okay, Dad, fine. It's so boring. Why do I have to do this? She's so cute, and it's so fun to watch these puppy videos again. It's been a while since I've watched them.
The little wiggly tail.
She's very wiggly. See if I do maybe one more. Okay, now I'm making her walk away from the food that I put in the bowl. That's how I'm decided to end. So it's fun, right? And now let me show you quickly the casting video. Any questions about lining?
We teach something similar like this in a go out and directed retrieve exercise and utility.
Correct.
So then what you're basically saying is that utility came from hunting.
Correct. Yeah, so there's a more advanced version of this drill would be that instead of one bowl ahead of you, you have maybe 4 bowls all around you in a circle. And we call this drill wagon wheel. And eventually it's not boat food and bowls. In fact, that's a modern addition to hunting training. Originally it was bumpers. It's like toys that are out there, and the dog has to go to the one that you line them up for and ignore the other ones. And that's about push and pull and teaching the dog how to line up to a specific target. We can also do really advanced lining drills where it's 100 yards away, and she was doing that as a puppy as well. You have to run over hills and across a lake to get to that bowl of food or something like that.
Would you have anything similar for this for nose work, where potentially you would be able to do this for a hide?
Yes. So I think a lot of times when you are working on a start line routine, I still see, and I fight people about it so much. They're at the start line and they're talking to the dog, and the dog's looking up at them. Instead of focusing on the search area, focusing on picking objects that they're going to want to search first, being able to go to that first box in a line, going to the first part of the car that they encounter instead of running to the back of the room, check the threshold first. So these can all be considered kind of lining drills, but probably the most direct connection from these drills and nose work is the ability to maintain focus for long periods of time across a distance, over distractions. That's probably the single most advantageous thing, because if she can run, 50 yards in my yard with grass and grasshoppers and butterflies and birds flying around, and she can focus on running that whole time to the bowl to eat her treat, the dog should be able to focus for a longer duration of time in a nose work search as well.
Perfect.
Okay, let me show quickly the casting drills. again, little puppy minnow. I took the sound off, but I'm blowing the whistle when she sits on her platform. Got treats again. Treats in the bowl. So simple. Anyone can do this in their yard right now. I would also recommend putting a long line on your dog. She's not wearing a long line, but she was also, like I said, when she was a puppy, she's a little different now that she's older, but when she was a puppy, she was strangely cooperative, and she just like really wanted to like follow direction. So I blew the whistle. I'm teaching her how to stop on the whistle. I put treats in that bowl. She knows they're there. I cast her over to that bowl. Now, while she's eating there, I'm putting food over here. So she doesn't know there's food here. Oh, wait, no, actually, I'm doing something slightly different. So those are called overcasts because I'm casting her left and right. And what I'm going to do now is what's called a back cast. So she sits there. A back cast means that the dog is going to go straight back, which is obviously not straight back. It's at an angle, but that's the idea, is eventually she'll turn around and go straight back. Is this different from lining? Sort of. The difference is she focused on me or is she focused on where she's going? And she's focusing on me this time and then waiting to be released to go. Even though it's not a long video, I will double speed it, which will make her look even bouncier and cuter. Okay, so now I put food in that bowl without her watching, and she's going there on faith because she doesn't know that there's treats there. So, nope, you gotta be obedient if you want me to put the food there and let you go. And so there, she's facing the wrong way, and she cheats on me. No, you can't do that. Wrong. And so even though she got the food, like she got the message too. And so there we go. She waited for me that time. And here I put food in without her watching. Now, did she see me? Maybe, but she's got to trust. She doesn't believe me, right? There we go. And she's like, wow, he was pointing because he knew there was food there, which is what you want out of casting, is you want the dog to trust you. One of the things I learned from my first hunting instructor was that you only cast them when they don't want to go there. Because if they wanted to go there, you wouldn't need to cast them there. And so the point of casting is to teach the dog to trust you, that where you're casting them is somewhere valuable. Anyways, it's fun.
So now I hear in the back of my mind, those are people going like, oh, I'm twitching, because now what happens if my dog has been taught that casting, I'm only going to cast you when it's productive, and then I happen to present in the middle of a search, and now my dog thinks, that must be where the hide is. So what is your response for that? How can people, if they wanted to play in both, how can they make it make sense for the dog?
So I will tell you, even if you never do a casting drill in your life, your dog already thinks that. They already think you're going to present something and it's going to be productive to them. And I think this is the version of casting I did with a 9-week-old puppy. Okay, maybe she was 10 weeks old or something like that. Okay, when she's 6 months old, she had to take 5 or 6 casts to get over 200 yards away from me to get to where a bird was. And then when she got there, she had to conduct a hunt and find the bird on her own, because I can't, 200 yards away, I can't point her exactly where it is. I can just get her to the area. Mm. That is already what we're doing in nose work. When we bring them to a start line, what we're saying is, this area that I'm sending you in is probably productive. Now, we can talk about blank searches later, but when I send my dog to search, what I'm telling them is this area I'm sending you into search is productive. And the dog has to go and search the area that you've presented to them and find the hide on their own independently. If they believe you that a hide is somewhere that it's not, that's a whole separate problem that we got to fix. And I will tell you that this kind of casting is not like easy. Like it may sound easy, and when you watch my puppy do it, it may seem easy to convince the dog that where I cast them is productive. You will spend years fighting with the dog over trusting a cast. It is not that easy to teach. So it won't corrupt. And I can tell you with Minnow, it has not corrupted her nose work at all.
So I'm sure there's also where people are hearing about the obedience side of it, that they're like, well, wait a minute. I heard in nose work that obedience is like Satan. So, but if obedience is such an important aspect of hunting, and obviously nose work is obviously, an offshoot of this, trying to put it into a professional realm, can you help people kind of square that circle of like, well, wait, what is the actual role of obedience when we're talking about nose work?
Yeah, so I think in a way people have it a little backwards, and so did I when I first started out in nose work. Um, Nose work is obedience. Obedience isn't contrary to nose work because nose work is obedience. The dog doesn't want the dog does is not interested in finding birch, anise, and clove. That is an obedience command to go and ask them to find something they don't care about. They don't care about it at all. It's when I give them a search signal, search. What that means is you have to go find the thing that I've asked you to find and ignore all those other tempting smells around you. That is obedience. Now, when people say no obedience in nose work, what they mean is don't accidentally suppress your dog's natural curiosity. And you can accidentally suppress your dog's natural curiosity. Mostly, people are already doing this without using quote unquote obedience. Things like pulling the dog back away from a boundary. Okay. That's the kind of obedience that suppresses a dog's natural curiosity, not being excited about not asking the dog to sit. That's not the kind of obedience that is problematic here. I mean, you shouldn't go around just telling your dog to sit randomly in a nose work search either. But my point is that's not the problem. The problem is when you suppress the dog's desire to go and explore.
So where does the curiosity piece come into play for hunting? Because some people may have a really hard time understanding, like, okay, well, wait a minute. If the dog was able to be really super curious, then potentially they could keep running for miles. And then the hunter is like, I'm kind of screwed here.
Yeah.
So can you help them understand, like, kind of
also screwed because
right.
Get tired, lost, injured, all sorts of things.
Yes. So can you help them kind of understand, like, where are the boundaries to this, or how can they best understand the concept of where I want my dog to be? Maybe it's different, or is it different in nose work than in hunting, as far as this curiosity piece?
Okay. Help me understand a little bit better. The curiosity piece, are you saying how does curiosity fit in hunting itself?
Yeah, so you were talking about how in nose work that people can get confused as far as the obedience piece, that they're almost hindering the dog's ability to be curious about the space. So maybe they're preventing them from going out of the boundary, that could be an issue as far as how they were misconstruing there's no obedience in nose work. But if curiosity is important in nose work, is it also important in hunting? But could it also be an issue in hunting?
It can be, just like curiosity can be an issue in nose work if the dog's curious about a distractor or curious about a pea spot on a grass. So curious, like, let's not get too attached to certain words. Like curiosity isn't because we like that word. It isn't necessarily always a good thing, right? Curiosity killed the cat, right? So sometimes curiosity is a bad thing. Sometimes it's a good thing. It just depends. Does it lead to a productive result or an unproductive result? The same is true in hunting. And in the different types of hunt sports, curiosity might be better or worse. In retriever training, the perfect retriever never hunts at all. They run a perfect line to the bird and back. They don't do any hunting. They don't explore. They just run straight there and back. But in order to get there, you need a dog who's exposed and comfortable and confident in so many new environments that nothing distracts them, not because they lack curiosity, but because they lack focus on a target. So that's an interesting, like, I'm not going to answer your question necessarily. I'm going to give you more questions. Which is, okay, you've got to hide in nose work. You got to hide out there and you say search, and you have a dog who catches odor, sources, goes straight to the odor and finds it. And you've got another dog who goes, oh, look at this area over here. Oh, look at this chair. Look at this corner. Look at this. And then eventually they get back to the odor. Which dog was more curious? Is either of those wrong?
Right.
No. What, was one going to place higher in a competition? Yeah. Is the dog who goes straight to the odor less curious? Maybe, but maybe they're just more focused. And maybe if you don't give a search command, they explore just the same as the other dog. But when you give a search command, they're on a mission to accomplish a goal. And that's, I think, like curiosity is useful because it pushes the dog into areas when they're struggling. But if the dog has an odor or has objects they want to check, there's no need for curiosity. I want a dog who's task oriented, who wants to accomplish a goal, and that curiosity is a tool used to accomplish that goal.
hmm So basically, with all of this, regardless of what it is that we're trained, there's these different elements that we're playing with, and if they're out of balance, where if we had too much curiosity but no focus, then we can just have meandering potentially,
Correct.
or if we had suppressed curiosity so much, we may not even have any go where they don't even want to go
Right.
over the start line to get anywhere.
You have
So
to
we
drag the dog around until they bump
right.
into odor, which I've seen many, many a time and knows where.
Exactly. So we have a comment question inside of the chat. A little squeamish about hunting animals, but my 9-month-old field lab has amazing hunt skills. Do you know if AKC Fetch uses similar skills without the dead animals?
Yeah. So there are some things about I don't know the fetch program that much because it doesn't interest me a lot. There's a lot of things about the fetch program initially when I looked at it that I was like, oh, this is like what I wanted to create was is this activity for all dogs? But there were certain things that were disappointing to me about it, and it's like it's really reduced down to the bare minimum. And I wish they built more of these communication skills at greater distances, perseverance to overcome obstacles, to explore certain environments. That would have been really interesting to me. So maybe you should look into it. I would also love to sit here for 5 hours and discuss the philosophy of owning predatory animals and not being wanting to engage in predatory behavior. But that's a whole separate conversation that is interesting. Because remember, I got into this when I was a vegetarian for ethical reasons. Not because I thought vegetarian was healthier, but because I thought the treatment of animals was important. And then I got into hunting from that perspective. So like, this is a conversation I've been having with myself for years.
So for people who may be starting off from that vantage point, could they still potentially start with bumpers or toys or fake ducks or something so they could at least do the activity?
Of course, you can start with food, which I should remind you is also dead animals. But
Right.
Let's not talk about that.
You're so naughty.
I know, I am. So yes, so you're now in order to use bumpers and other toys, you're going to have to build a certain amount of toy drive. That's going to be a necessary part to ask a dog to do very complex tasks and build perseverance. You have to build a certain amount of that. I will also say, again, not to be naughty, but just to mention this as a potential consideration, is that that exposure to the dead and live animals is an access to a certain part of their natural instincts and things that is valuable in its own right, potentially, even outside of training. Just like, can a border collie use its herding instinct to chase a frisbee? Yes. But is it the same as using that herding instinct on sheep? No, it's not the same. So yeah, all things worth considering. I think giving your dog even a crumb of a version of this would be good for them. But the more you can give them, I think the better.
Perfect. And then the next question I had for you is that that you've come upon any common misconceptions about the sport of hunting or hunt tests or what goes into preparing a dog to do hunting? Anything that comes to mind as far as outside perspectives, you're like, wow, that was really wrong.
Yeah, I think a couple things right off the bat is that like certain dogs can't do it. Maybe certain dogs can never become, a field champion, but every dog can benefit from some aspect of the activity, even if it's a small amount of it. Another misconception might be that that you do have to use dead animals or things like that. You don't. We kind of discussed that. You can use bumpers, you can use food, you can use a toy. I used tennis balls for Golden for a long time because Golden loved tennis balls, and that's what I used in her hunting training. Another is that what's the right way to phrase this? Well, this isn't a misconception, but that it's a lot of work. That's true. It's not a misconception. It's a lot of work. But what I will say is it is worth it.
So are there only certain parts of the country that really lean themselves here in the United States for hunting, or can you do it anywhere?
You can do it anywhere. There are certain parts of the country where it's easier to do. for climate conditions. Obviously, if it's really hot for part of the year, there's certain parts of hunting you can't do during that time of year because it's dangerous. Same with it being very, very cold. But that's true for even nose work. I think if you really get into retriever training, what you'll discover is you need something called a technical pond. And technical pond is a pond of water that is shaped in a particular way. It has a peninsula in it, and it has this area, and it has that area, and it's got all these weird shapes, and it looks like a hieroglyphic, kind of thing. And the point of it is to teach a dog to take really weird lines across water. So if you get really into retriever training, you need access to technical water. And that can be hard to find because retriever trainers are not necessarily the nicest people, and they don't want to share their technical water with you. It's mine, and only I get to use it. And it can be very cliquish and things like that.
Well, there we go. We're going to start up a whole club of creating our own ponds so everyone can go train on them.
In the comments, I just saw another misconception is that it's a good old boys club, and our women welcome. So yeah, it can be. Every club is different. I mean, that's true in nosework. There are some nosework clubs where I'm not welcome, where other people aren't welcome for one reason or another. That's just the nature of humans, right? That said, I have found hunting clubs to be some of the most inviting and welcoming communities. It has, and sometimes nosework communities aren't the most welcoming for men. Like there aren't a lot of men in nosework, just saying. And I go to hunting events and women are there, men are there, women are running dogs, children are there, children are running dogs. Can there be some old boy club kind of thing? Yeah, sure, absolutely. And most of the women there shrug it off and laugh. And then there are women's only clubs now that are, and there, I think my NABDA club has like a women's only event every year. And so there's all sorts of that becoming more and more popular. So women are definitely welcome. I think there will, in hunting, and this is true for working dog sports in general, it's true in protection world and other things, they're very wary of newcomers because when a newcomer comes and they see you shoot a duck or a dog retrieving a live bird or something like that, if you're not in that culture and then you freak out about it and then you call animal control on them, they don't want to deal with that. So there's almost like a rite of passage you have to go through to prove yourself trustworthy. And same with protection sport. We're asking dogs to be aggressive sometimes, and we're doing things that make the outside world, who's outside of that world, uncomfortable. And they want to know that you can handle it before you're invited into that training session where only the real members are invited.
Yeah, that's just an important thing to keep in mind. Same thing for if anyone doing actual coursing, make sure that they want to make certain that everyone is on the same page of, do you know what we're doing here today?
Yeah.
And are you here to cause trouble or not? So that completely makes sense. We have a great question for you. Are the birds used in retrieve trials dead when they're placed? If so, is training with only dead birds sufficient, or do you need access to live birds that you can shoot?
So in hunt tests currently, and there's legislation in different parts of the country that are trying to change this a little bit. And whether I'm not going to state whether I agree or don't agree with that, that's a whole separate conversation. But the way AKC hunt tests are currently set up is in retriever trials, there's going to be a live flyer, which means a live bird that they throw that they shoot. But the other birds are dead already that they throw. And you can do all of the training with just bumpers. And if you did all of the training with only toys and bumpers, some portion of dogs will go out and pick up a bird right from the first time and bring it back. Some portion of dogs will go to the bird and say, I don't know what this is, and pee on it or be afraid of it or like try to pick it up and be like, ew, this is gross. Some portion of dogs are going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And they're going to try to eat it, and they are not going to bring it back to you. They're going to take it into the woods over there and hide it. So in order to not be surprised by your dog's reaction, you're going to need to train with both dead and live birds before you get to a test.
Perfect. And then I'm very interested in retriever sports, but I've been intimidated because I'd never, ever shot a gun before. We do bumper drills a lot.
Yeah. I will tell you that you don't need to shoot a gun ever. So in retriever trials, and this different between retriever and pointer. So in pointer trials, it's all live birds. A pointer won't point a dead bird. They will retrieve a dead bird. So it has to be live to point it. In pointing trials, because every bird is alive, they all have to be shot in order for the dog to retrieve it. In retriever trials, on the other hand, the bird is 300 yards that way. And maybe some of you guys don't know how guns work. You can't shoot a bird 300 yards away. That's not how guns work. You can barely shoot a bird 50 yards away. Okay. It's not that easy. Even if you hit it directly, the pellets just bounce right off the bird because they lose velocity very quickly. Maybe 50 yards, maybe a little too close, maybe a little farther than that. But anyways, my point is in hunt tests, when you see a handler shoulder a gun, they're shouldering a fake gun. It's just to simulate a hunt. You're not actually shooting. And even in HRC trials where you see them pull the trigger and a bang happen, it's a blank. It's just making a noise to simulate a hunt. You don't actually have to shoot a gun. You don't have to, but I will tell you this. If you take that totally fake gun at an AKC test and you swing it around wildly and you're not being careful of it, you will be disqualified for gun safety regulations, even though it's a fake gun. Okay. So it's good to learn gun safety because that's just a good thing to know. But yeah, you don't have to be intimidated because you've never shot a gun. And also, in my experience in hunt tests, everyone is so welcoming and wanting to help you. If you want to learn how to shoot a gun, they will teach you. They'll be nice about it. And if you don't want to shoot a gun, like 8 people will be like, "I'll gun for you. I'll gun for you." Like they will help you.
Perfect. And then we have this wonderful comment pointing out that maybe your dog is going to roll on it.
Spoken by someone who I think has watched my dog roll on the bird at a test.
I love it.
Yes.
So I have another question for you as we're trying to bring this all together. What do you think your experience now in hunting and in the sport of hunting has changed or adjusted the way that you approach or think about nose work?
Absolutely. So I actually was talking this out with Natalie and going through a list of concepts that I've imported from hunting into my nose work. And some of these aren't new concepts, but they are a different terminology, a slightly different way of thinking about it. I'll start with thresholds, because in the hunt test world, they view thresholds very differently than they do in nose work. I went to one of my first ever pointing dog events, and it was a fun hunt. So it was like a little mini competition for the members of the club. And I went out with the bird setting crew to help them. And they were like, okay, we're going to set a bird right here at this entrance area. And in nose work, we set a threshold hide. We know that as a tricky problem. In hunting training, they put a bird at the threshold as a drive building exercise to give the dog a quick success so that they're already on the mission when they come out of the gate. It was such a different way of looking at it. That was interesting. Now, some of those dogs ran straight past the threshold bird like we would expect in nose work. But actually, a lot of the dogs hit that bird immediately and pointed it. And it showed me that, okay, yeah, if you get the drive in the right place, the hide at the threshold will stop a dog. But if the drive is not in the right place, it might be more fun to run in the field instead of find a bird or a hide.
That's amazing. So for anyone who is really involved in nose work and they're like, that sounds awesome. Okay, I never thought of it that way. What is some of the advice that you have for them as far as how they can kind of reapproach their perspective from what you've learned from hunting, so they can look at nose work a little bit differently as far as the motivators that they have at their disposal on the dog's end and how they can kind of manipulate those to get the result in nose work that they're looking for?
Yeah. So I think one thing to think about is that you need to pump up that dog's odor obedience. I've been meeting a lot of resistance against this lately in workshops. I used to be used to people just being stingy and not wanting to pay a lot and this kind of thing. I was used to that, but now I'm meeting real resistance. I don't want to pay my dog multiple times at hide because I want the dog to leave and not come back. And I do a lot of drills. You guys have watched me in these seminars or these webinars and things like that. No, I do a lot of drills where the dog goes back to hide. I throw a treat. They go back to hide. I throw a treat. I go back to the hide. This kind of thing, this building this intense desire and fixation on a hide is a core part of my training. And I think it's a valuable thing for all the dogs. What's the problem with that? One, they don't want to leave after you do that. That's okay. You train it. Okay. Number two, they leave. They want to go back because they had a good time there. These are normal problems that should be fixed in training, not by denying the dogs a good reward experience on a hide. You just train the skill. So that's one thing. The second thing is if you do that correctly, now we're really good in nose work and we think a lot about odor problems. And so we can set really tricky things. But I think we really should be using threshold hides as a drive building exercise more regularly. Set in such a way that the dog can't miss it. Set in such a way that the dog is going to be super stoked about finding a hide so quickly in a search. Not all the time, but I would like that to be thought of that way instead of either as a trap for the dog to miss it, which if you train with me, you know I use threshold hides as a trap all the time, okay? But that's only one way of looking at it. Or another way of looking at it is as a, what was I going to say? I can't remember what I was going to say. So not a trap, but more as a drive building exercise, as a way to pump a dog up and make them excited about working.
So when we're trying to wrap our heads around this, like the correlation between hunting and nose work, people may say, well, wait a second. In hunting, you got the bird is out there, it's on the ground, the dog goes, they get it, they bring the bird back, you put the bird into your bag. You can't then send the dog back out to the bird because it's in your bag. So there's no repeat thing that's going on.
Oh, that's such a mistake. Okay, so I have multiple concepts related to this. So I'll tell you the words that they use in hunting training. Selection. What selection means is picking the bird that you ask them to pick in the order that you ask them to pick it in, and not whichever one they want to do, the one you want them to do. So this idea of selection and discipline in selection is super important. And this is something that has come into my nose work a lot. And teaching, I start thinking about multiple hides as being disciplined about your hunting and not just picking the problem you would like. Number two, preference. You've got a dog here and there's a bird way over there across a lake that was shot and it fell over there and the sun was kind of in their eyes and there's a lot of running to do. And then live bird right here, boom, big splash right in the water right in front of them. Well, there's a strong preference and maybe you got to get that one way out there first. And it's hard to get the dog to do that. So preference, just like selection, hand in hand, preference influences nose work. And the last one is switching. Switching is when the dog is going for one and then switches to another. Now, when they do that, they often switch. So let's say we have that situation. We have a long bird out here, short bird here. That was a live flyer, super exciting, super preference. We send the dog for this easy one first. So the dog picks it up and comes back. It's gone now. Now we send it for the long bird and the dog goes, let me double check there isn't a second bird over. That happens all the time in hunting. That happens in nose work all the time too. So it's not like it's an easy problem for hunting dogs because we remove the bird. No, that comes with training that we teach the dog not to go back. And sometimes we teach them not to go back by letting them see that there's not a bird there anymore. But oftentimes there is a bird there because we planted it there for the next dog. So now they have to ignore that bird and go to the one you asked them to go to.
Perfect.
Which is just like nose work.
And so as far as helping people, like as a wrap-up kind of concept, is that with hunting, there more likely than not is an inherent value attached to the bird.
Yes.
Because they are dogs.
Yeah.
But our little metal tin that has bird janice or clove in it, not so much. So that it's our job to make it so that potentially the hide that we're setting in nose work could maybe even come close to what is inherently valuable to the dog in hunting. What are some ways that we can do that?
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways. And I think I did an odor obedience thing with you at one point in maybe my 4 pillars webinar with you a long, long time ago. And so I listed these several things. So number one is desirability. Making that hide more desirable by increasing the value of the rewards used, increasing the number of rewards used, increasing the level of enthusiasm and sincerity you put into the joy and praise of that dog, that kind of thing. That's where a lot of people focus, and that's where a lot of people stop, where there's multiple things there. So that's only one. Number two, urgency. So the the reason, like, okay, so dogs go around a room and they catalog the hides, right? So they go, oh, there's a hide there, oh, there's a hide there, oh, then, but they don't indicate them. But if you replace those hides with pieces of steak, they don't catalog them, they eat them. Why do they eat the piece of steak? There's something in a dog's mind that piece of steak might not wait for me. Maybe another dog will come and steal it. Maybe an animal will come and steal it. Same thing with a rabbit or a squirrel. It commands your dog's attention because it'll leave if they don't give it attention. Now it's not waiting for you when you come back. In nose work, we tend to let the hides wait for the dog to come back to them. And so the dog learns odor is not urgent, not important for me to focus on right now, because I'll go sniff that bush and then 10 minutes later it'll be there and I'll get paid. Okay? Urgency, another important part. Then next is scarcity. Okay? I know, like, my dogs love bumpers and they like bumpers, but when they see a bird, they don't get birds very often, maybe once every few months. It's so exciting. Now, if I go every day throwing birds for the dog, it becomes less exciting. And I'll give you another example. We used to teach classes on our property when we owned sheep, and a lot of pet dogs would come and they'd just shovel sheep poop in their mouths, mouthfuls of sheep poop. And we would let our dogs out and they're not interested in sheep poop. We're like, well, how do your dogs ignore the sheep poop? Like, they did that the first 2 days, and then it was suddenly less exciting, okay? Because it was common. Common things are less interesting than scarce things, than novel things, than rare things. This is part of the reason why you buy the best treats in the world and your dog's more interested in the boring kibble that person has over there. It's just something different. It's something novel. Novelty and scarcity is inherently interesting. And oftentimes when we're trying to do drive building for a dog, we focus on desirability and we throw out a ton of hides in a search area to make it more fun. But what we're doing is we're making it too common. Odor is not important because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's boring now. And actually, you start doing a little bit more blank searches in your training, and you start seeing an increase of odor obedience. How did I increase odor obedience? By putting out less odor. This is the operating mechanism, is scarcity.
Perfect. And so to wrap all this up into a nice little bow, what is it that you want people to walk away from understanding about your journey as far as hunting and hunt sports and its relationship to nose work and whether or not they should be giving any of these concepts a try?
Yeah, I think one of the big takeaways for me that I think is useful for everyone is to understand that nose work is a shadow of real hunting. And understanding the hunting that is the foundation of the nose work, and not just like conceptually understanding that, oh, dogs are predators and they use their nose to find game. Not just that, like hands-on, oh, this is what hunting really is. This is what my dog does with a natural environment, with animals in it. Understanding that will give you a much deeper connection to what we're actually trying to build in nose work and what we would actually like to see. What does real hunt drive look like? Watch a dog hunting a bird in like a pointing dog or a retriever hunting a bird in a field. That's what hunt drive looks like. And how can I replicate that in my nose work? Having that image in your head, I think anybody knows this because when you've trained multiple dogs, the first dog, you didn't have an image in your head. Now the second dog, you have an image in your head. Sometimes that image in your head is a bad thing, but a lot of times that image in your head is a good thing because when you're training, if you have a good image in your head, you're just more likely to create that image. It just resonates with you. So when like you're teaching healing, and you don't know, like with my first dog, Lumi, I didn't know what a good heel position looked like. So my training was sloppy and inaccurate. Now I know what a good heel position looks like. And when a dog gets in a heel, I'm like, oh, that's the position. And just my energy lighting up makes the dog find that position faster, like being in that position faster. Having that clear image in your head gives you that goal. And sometimes we think we know what hunt drive looks like, but when you really see it, then you go, no, I'm aiming for a different target now.
Perfect. Well, sir, this was absolutely amazing. Very, very exciting. And again, like you said, like that's the right heel position. We can hear your excitement all throughout this live stream. You absolutely adore hunting.
Yes, I do.
And we are very excited you're able to play this with your puppies. I have a little poll for everyone because, again, Michael is not busy enough, so I want to make him more busy. So the poll is this. Do any of you have interest in this potential sport that he wants to start off or be a consultant of, where it would be open to all dogs for some kind of hunting thing? If it's yes, then put 1 inside the chat. If it's maybe, put a 2. And if it's a 3, if it's a no, put 3. So as I'm waiting for you guys to put your answers inside the chat, which I'm sure Mike will be like, oh, why are you doing this to me? Sir, I know with your very busy schedule, you have so many things going on. Do you have anything going on with Ready, Sit, Go dog training that you want to let everyone know about?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of workshops on our website now that you can see and join us and train with us. And so take a look at those. Um, I have some crazy weird projects coming up. And if you're interested in this kind of stuff, so I'm going to be doing some training with horses. I'm buying a Mustang and starting a Mustang from scratch. If you're interested in that, send me an email because I'm probably going to put all the videos on my website. Probably cost some money, probably not a lot, but if that's something interesting to you, you might want to join in because it's another new project that I like doing.
Perfect. Yes, definitely make certain if you guys aren't already a member through Michael's site, go be a member. They put up excellent information over there. I am a member. There's so much stuff in there. It's going to take you a while to go through it all, but it's really, really good. You get early access to their courses that are released. It's very, very good. It's excellent information. If you guys are interested in dog training or nose work, make sure you go check that out. And again, definitely want to follow along for the horse training stuff. Oh, the more stuff that we can learn from Michael, the better. So as far as what we are signing you up for, sir, so we have about 50-50 of, yes, we are interested in maybe a new sport. And the other one's like, well, maybe I could be, which means that we would like for you to maybe, do some work on this.
Yeah. I think we can. And I think maybe the format it can take at this point, because I don't have time to film lessons. But what I can do is say, here's the exercise. Here's how you set it up. And then have you guys do what I wrote and then post the videos. Then I can say, yeah, it's not quite right. Or that's it. That's exactly it. And then that'll create a video library and start creating courses and things like that. So maybe a challenge list of things like that. Things you could do with a food bowl or a toy if your dog likes toys,
Perfect. So what I will be doing, so I'll give myself some work, is that I will be opening this up on the SetWorkU community. There'll be its own little thing that maybe we can start up where we just start playing with these things. So if you are not already a member, you can become a member by clicking on the link inside the chat. And by becoming a member, you get to have access to all kinds of member events. And now this new thing that we're going to be starting, because again, Michael and I are not busy enough.
Yes.
So we want to thank you all for joining us for our live stream today. Our next live stream is scheduled at the end of the month. This is where we're going to have Anita Umbini, I'm sure I'm butchering that, I'm sorry, of the Scholarly Sense for her one dog focus or multi-dog marathon event. So if you guys have one dog or multiple dogs, you definitely want to make certain that you check this out. This will be available on our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page. And then we are inviting Mr. Tony Gravely of the Next Generation Canine. He's going to be doing a member-only event. It's a Q&A all about pairing. If you know anything about Tony, he's passionate about pairing, you want to join us for this. This is scheduled for September 21st, and it'll be an hour-long event. It's only open to members, but it will be recorded and available as a replay on the member site as well. Sir, this was amazing as always. You are so very good with us. I love the excitement that you have for hunting, and you got them all excited too. We're very thrilled for you to share all these things with us, and baby Minnow was adorable.
Isn't she cute?
So cute. So cute. And Catfish was cute too with his
He is cute.
All right, guys, I want to thank you all so very much for joining us for our live stream today. You guys were amazing. As you can hear, my tiny terrier is all done. He's like, well, I can go do some hunting. Let's go find some critters and kill them with our teeth. All right, guys, please give a cookie to your puppies for us. Happy training. We look forward to seeing